Well, hey there team, welcome back to the channel and welcome to an overview of Jurassic World Evolution. So this is a little bit out of left field, a bit out of time. This game came out back in 2018 and just on a whim, looking through my library, I can't even remember what inspired me, but I reinstalled it at like the middle of the night and went on a bender and played a chunk of it. And I just thought I'd do a video. So an out of time overview. There's no particular sale or reason or anything like that. I just happened to install it on a whim. And this game holds up incredibly. There's been a sequel since, which I didn't put a lot of time in, but I feel like I might flow on from this as well. So we'll see, maybe I'll do a proper full review of this. I've put lots of hours into it in the past, but given that I've kind of just played a couple of hours offhand recently, I thought I'd share some thoughts, just in case it appealed to someone, who knows. So to be perfectly clear, this game is brilliant, and it still holds up perfectly today, especially if you're a Jurassic Park, Jurassic World fan. This sort of ties into or goes on the back of the hype of the reimagining run of the Jurassic World movies, which, I don't know, I guess the first one was all right. The first one's usually okay. The first new Star Wars was okay, right? But it's lost the plot since, but I digress. And it also serves as a spiritual successor to Operation Genesis, I believe it was called, which was a version of this, but probably 10 years earlier. I can't remember specifically when it came out, but I'm pretty sure it was on the OG Xbox, maybe the 360. Oh my God, it's been a while. But that was a Jurassic Park management game built for console thumbsticks first. It had that certain vibe to it. And this, you can feel it as well. Even though I'm playing it with keyboard and it's working quite well, this deserves the mantle of spiritual successor because it seems to still have those accessibility components to it. You could probably play this with thumbsticks quite easily. And from the perspective of a huge fan of Operation Genesis and sank many hours into it, playing this was and still is like coming home. So absolutely true to form. So if you're a Jurassic Park fan, this is an absolute no-brainer. If somehow you slept on it or missed it, put it on your wish list. I know it's still going for a pretty hefty price, but it's kind of worth it. But there's a lot of licensing tied into it as well. Like, it's got the original soundtrack through it, which is brilliant. The most important thing, I suppose, to take away from this video is this game successfully captures what I would call the majesty of the Jurassic Park formula. Don't get me wrong, you know, people enjoy like The Lost World, being a bit more dark and gritty and all that sort of stuff, but I don't think you can really ever beat the first Jurassic Park movie and things like the iconic, whatever they bloody are, brachiosaur moving in herds and that sort of thing. Like, I truly think the best word to describe it is majesty. It really does capture the imagination and handles it with reverence. And the reason I'm harping about it is because there are big aspects of this game that get that. Specifically, you're sort of gene splicing, and I'll go through the loop in a bit, but I just want to get to this sort of the cornerstone of what really makes this game magic is that you incubate and create these dinosaurs and then you release them into their pen. And when you do that, the game knows exactly what it's doing, and it auto camera locks in tight angle on the animal essentially being birthed when it comes out and it decides to take in its environ and run around and look for water or try and marry up with its herd. And there's a bit of like, well, not people watching, but animal watching that you can kind of really lose yourself down in this game, and it leans into it, and it's got the musical swells and the graphics still hold up really well. And it's just kind of quite wonderful being essentially a dinosaur farmer. And while there are some thrilling aspects, you can sort of battle royale the bloody T-Rexes and all the more violent sort of oorah stuff. There is something, again, I'm leaning into it, but I think it's the best descriptor. There is something majestic about watching the stegosaurs or the Struthiomimus run around. There's another one that's sort of that I've got at the moment. It's kind of like a cow. It's essentially a dinosaur cow. And just watching them hang out together and go for a drink and eat grass and all that sort of stuff, and it's just really quite wonderful. So the vibe, the mouthfeel of this game is unparalleled, and still in current year, all these years later, it holds up so incredibly well. At its core, for the gameplay loop, it has one of the more inspired, what I would call like meta layers. So it probably helps to just briefly touch on, you're running an amusement park, and you're kind of split between animal, health, variety, but essentially the animal statistical component and the customer base, making sure they've got amenities, gift shops, places to take a dump, hotels for capacity, even monorails for advanced travel systems. And there's all these clean overlays that are very, not simple, but definitely streamlined for, thumbstick use as well. And I kind of really enjoy that. I think some games lose the forest for the trees when they just go hell for leather with too many telemetry and too many metrics and too much telemetry. This balances it quite well. And you're essentially island hopping. So your island will have a 5-star rating, which is an amalgamation of satisfaction of customers and general well-being of dinosaurs. So it's cool that you're encouraged to spread yourself around and kind of even up the star rating. And then once you get to, 2 or 3 stars on a certain island, it will unlock another island. And there's a whole string of them. There's like 5 or something. And some of them have their own environmental quirks like thunderstorms and, more sort of hostile environs. Again, I'm only just picking it up after all these years, so I'm a little fuzzy on, that deeper part. But the real magic to that is that you get a couple star rating in one island, then you jump to the new one and maybe you level that up a bit and it's tougher, and then you'll jump back to the old one to do some tech or, because you've got a better economy on that island, and maybe you'll unlock yet another island, and you essentially end up, like, no pun intended, island hopping around these different levels, and it creates this kind of, while the overall game has a linear progress of growing out the sort of franchise of all your different islands, it behaves in this very non-linear, dare I say almost Metroidvania fashion, where you're double backing a lot to level up and excavate and so on. It's actually really, really clever and inspired. I want to say it was like that in Operation Genesis. It becomes difficult to disentangle the two games because this plays so close to it. But it's incredibly satisfying, that backtracking, that you're never really done with the first level, and getting the first level to 5 stars, for example, I would say is likely impossible until you've unlocked other levels, because to get to, say, 5-star dinosaur rating, you're probably going to need higher rarity fossils unlocked, and that's not going to be accessible until you've unlocked a different path. So there's sort of this entwining of the meta progression, which has kind of become a very lazy expected layer of things like roguelites these days, where the game, you just have to grind and eat shit for the first couple of hours while you unlock stuff that makes the game the game. So, arguably this does roguelite meta progression better than any roguelite game. And it was just refreshing to come back to it, because, I picked this up because I had a dinosaur pang, the same reason you go back and watch Jurassic Park every couple of years. And I totally forgot that the progress system was meted out in that way. Anyway, I think I've waffled about the main points that I want to go on. The core loop is pretty cool, looking after dinosaurs, their welfare, their enclosures, what they want, making sure not to spook. Some of them you can't overpopulate a pen too much, they'll get upset, and then if they get agitated, they'll break out and they'll eat all your bloody important customers, and that's not great. And you can shoot them with darts, with helicopters and all that. Like, there's all this stuff in there that I didn't even touch on. I know I kind of talked in higher level, broad, conceptual, sweeping statements, but again, as someone coming back, that's what was important to me. This feels like Jurassic Park in the most fundamental sense. And so somehow, if you've made it this far and you're, maybe you're not even a gamer, I don't know why you're watching my video or whatever, but maybe you're a Jurassic Park fan, you should play this. It's a kind of a must play for anyone that enjoys that kind of wholesome component to Jurassic Park. Anyway, at this point I'm just gushing. A bit of an unusual video. Let me know how this went. If you like it, chances are it won't perform quite as well, because usually these out of season videos don't. But heart wants what the heart wants, and this is what I'm playing. And I played some more last night, and I'm gonna play all this weekend probably, even though I've got 5 other games to play, because it's just that good. It's still that good. Anyway, team, might just leave it there for the time being. I'll catch you guys on the next one.